session is called the Skill Symphony Talent, Knowledge, Profit. It will provide an understanding of the intricate integration of talent and knowledge to drive profitability in organizations.
In fact, this session explores the strategies for optimizing talent management practices to maximize organizational sections and success, and will be offering insights into leveraging human capital effectively to achieve business objectives. So help me welcome none other than Marc Effron, the founder and president of the Talent Strategy Group, here on stage.
Good afternoon, India. Let's try that again. Normally when I say good afternoon, India, people say good afternoon, Marc. Good afternoon, India.
A louder one, please.
There we go. We have a very busy 15 minutes ahead of us, because in the next 15 minutes you're going to learn exactly what you need to do to build better talent faster in your organization. I'm going to tell you the 2 key questions that you need to answer, and I'm going to give you the answers to those questions, and it's going to be simple and things that you can start implementing Monday morning. Do you think we can do that? Absolutely. Okay, so let's start here. I'm so confident we can do it, I'm going to waste 45 seconds right now. Let me just tell you a little bit about where my point of view comes from. I'm very fortunate I get to work with the best companies, governments, NGOs, not-for-profits, foundations around the globe, helping them to solve their most tricky talent issues. We also run a talent management institute at the University of North Carolina. I get to talk to leaders all the time about their challenges in managing talent, how to make that better. And then in my spare time, I write books for Harvard on talent and high performance in organizations. So that gives you a bit of insight around where my perspective comes from. When I talk to organizations and they say, we're very good at building talent, I say, answer 2 questions for me. Answer for me, can you sustain high performance? Can you sustain high performance? And I say, do you have a selectively deep bench? Can you sustain high performance? Do you have a selectively deep bench? How do we get there? Sustain high performance. Everyone in the organization needs to have 3 big challenging goals. Now that sounds really simple, doesn't it? But I work with great companies around the world who are horrible at goal setting. You need to have great goal setting. What does that mean? It means that everybody in the company has 3 big promises that they have made to the organization. Now I say promise instead of goal because we all have goals. We try to achieve our goals. We hope we do our goals. But how many times do you make a promise to someone and not try exceptionally hard to fulfill that promise? I want 3 of them. I do not want a laundry list of the 15 things you're doing. I want to know what are the few most important things that you're going to deliver to the organization. Big. The psychology is very clear. We as human beings respond to challenge with effort. We respond to challenge with more effort. Every goal should be a stretch goal. We should set goals at the maximum reasonable stretch because you should know your team members well enough to know what they're capable of, and finally write them in a way we can understand. Simple. Specific, what are you going to do? Important, why do I care? And measurable, just what it sounds like, how am I going to know if you're done? So first step is that, big challenging goals. Second step is, once we have those goals set, frequent, transparent coaching for performance. Most leaders are not as good at this as they should be. Most leaders are not as transparent as they should be. I'm going to radically simplify good coaching for you. We call this 2+2. Once a quarter, tell your team members to meet with each of their direct reports. It can be a conversation that is as short as 15 minutes. In that conversation, they're going to convey 2 things. First, they're going to discuss the 2 most important observations they have against that individual's goals. Not 2 observations on every goal, the 2 most important things that need to be said. That might be, Rajan, on that big marketing project, I'm getting really good feedback from around the globe. You're being very inclusive. It's going along well. Keep that going. Rajan, on that marketing strategy, that's a week late. I don't know where it is, but I need to see it by Friday. 2 observations against the most important goals. And then 2, what we would call feed-forward suggestions. Here are 2 things you can do to be even more effective going forward. That might be, Rajan, This is a relationship-based company. The more people you know, the more successful you will be. I want you to have a cup of coffee once a week with one new person. By the end of the year, you would have met 50 new associates here in our organization. 2 observations against goals. 2 observations, that's only one, but 2 observations that are feed forward. Here's what you can do to be an even better leader going forward. And finally, there's accountability for performance-driving behaviors. Most leadership models, most behavior models are a mix of good citizen behaviors and actual performance-driving behaviors. I only care about performance-driving behaviors. Good citizens are nice, but I already pay you to be a good citizen. That's called your paycheck. What I want to see is you demonstrating more performance-driving behaviors. There are probably 3 or 4 behaviors in your organization that you know, if more people engage in it, are going to help the organization succeed. So I want you to identify those 3 or 4 behaviors. I want you to make them at least 30% of how you evaluate somebody. Why at least 30%? Because people tend not to pay attention to amounts under that, and 30% should give you enough impact that people say, oh, they're actually serious about these behaviors. But then most importantly, differentiate that 30%. We lose so much power in our performance management processes because in most companies, if you give 20%, 30%, 40% to behaviors, it's a freebie. Unless you've killed somebody during the year, you get the whole amount. But we differentiate on performance. Why don't we differentiate on behaviors? If you have a good year, you get big bonus, average year, average bonus, low year, low bonus. Why don't we differentiate the same way on behaviors? I behaved great, I get the maximum. I behaved pretty well, I get a little bit less. Didn't behave so well, get even less. That's where the power comes from. So if you're going to sustain high performance, you are going to have everyone having a few big challenging goals. You're going to have managers regularly and transparently coaching for performance and behaviors. And you're going to identify the few behaviors that truly drive performance and hold people accountable for that in performance reviews. Okay, that answers the first question. How do you sustain high performance? Second question is, how do you build a deep bench? Starts by saying, is our best talent in our most critical roles? Is our best talent in our most critical roles? Well, that means you need to know what your critical roles are. How do you figure that out? Impact. Does that role have an immediate impact on revenue, on operations, on risk? So if the person left, would the market notice immediately? Would revenues drop? Would operational efficiency drop? So there is a criticality to the impact of that role. There is variability possible in that role, meaning for each unit of additional quality of the individual in the role, you get an additional unit of performance. So can the performance in that role vary with the person you put in that role? And scarcity. Now, scarcity does not mean, oh, that's a really tough job to recruit for. Scarcity means there are only 10 people around the globe who actually do that job. Therefore, we better have depth in that role, because if we lose our person, it's going to be nearly impossible to get someone else. You accurately define potential. Here's the challenge. In the field I work in, industrial organizational psychology, we try really, really hard to predict potential accurately. We still know maybe 50% of the answer to that question. What we do know is that it's a combination of cognitive, how smart you are, select personality factors, and your ambition. One of my friends in the field defines it as ability, likability, and drive. So if you're sitting in your next talent review and someone goes, what's potential? Ability, can they do the job? Likability, not are they the nicest person ever, but do they get along with folks well? And drive, do they really want to succeed? So let's start with that criteria. And potential needs to be defined as upward progress over time. We all have the potential to do many things. That's not what we're talking about. Can someone move up in your company with pace over time? And you have predictive talent reviews. You're having discussions about people on a frequent basis. You always know about the quality and depth of talent in your organization. And for your highest potential leaders, you have exquisite development plans. Exquisite development plans focused on getting them the big, juicy developmental experiences that are going to accelerate their growth. Final step, there is a disciplined approach to producing talent. I'm going to guess you're from a variety of industries, but in whatever industry you're in, you'll probably take a lot of care with the product or services that you produce. You probably want to make sure that you've defined the quality specifications, that you're producing from great raw material, that you're getting that product to the talent or getting that product to the customer that needs it. Why wouldn't we treat our people at least as well as we treat our products? We know how to develop people. Why don't we set up that same careful, disciplined production line to grow people that we do to produce our products? If we did that, we'd probably start by saying, what are we trying to grow? What are the specifications? Now, this seems like an easy question, but I go to a lot of clients around the world and I say, what are you trying to grow? And they'll say, leaders? And I'll say, well, okay, what type of leaders? And they'll say, great leaders? Because they haven't thought through what differentiates high performance in our organization. So the starting point is, do we know what we're trying to build? What type of leader are we trying to grow in this company? Next step is to say, we have a lot of good talent in this company, but not everybody can be produced into what we've just defined. So do we have regular conversations to sort through all the good talent we have and make predictions about who can go far and fast in the company? Who has the most potential? Then the most challenging piece, where most companies fall down, is the actual production process. Do you know how to produce what you specified? Do you have what we'll call the machinery, the experiences, the exposure, the education to actually produce talent? And if you know how to build the talent, you have the machinery, are you actually moving people through the process so they grow? A lot of my clients, they spend a lot of money on machinery, but they never actually run people through the machine. Finally, distribution. This is a bigger deal post-pandemic than it was pre-pandemic. Can you get that talent to where it's needed? If you've spent all your time and effort building great quality talent, but they don't want to go where you want them to go, or their manager's holding on to them for dear life so that they can't go to that next job, you've just built a bunch of inventory in talent. Inventory is expensive. So, when we talk about building great quality talent, you've probably heard a lot of complex solutions in your business life. I can promise you the starting point is what we've talked about today. Can you sustain high performance? Does everybody have 3 big, challenging, and aligned goals? Are you having regular and transparent coaching conversations with your team members? Are you reinforcing those performance-driving behaviors? Are you building selectively deep bench? You don't need bench strength for every single job, but for the ones that matter most, for those critical roles. Do you know those critical roles are your best people in them? Do you accurately measure and define potential? Do you know who can move far and fast? And finally, do you have that disciplined production line, a structured approach to producing great quality talent? It's as simple as that. The companies who do this well win through execution. That's my time. Thank you very much. I hope you take this home with you, and I'm looking forward to talking with you in the future.